Hello, everyone, and welcome to Biblical Sex 101.
Hi.
I am here with the Christian sexpert herself, Miss Angela. Hey, Miss Angela, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. I know class is in session. I'm ready to take my notes.
It is. It is.
Welcome back to the GSL platform.
Thank you for having me back. I'm super excited to speak with you again.
I'm excited as well, if you can't tell. I mean, I want to first say thank you for accepting this challenge of coming and being our teacher here
Of
on Biblical
course.
Sex 101. It's so funny because I've been just like, we of course we have to do shout outs and let people know that this whole thing is coming, this new series and everything like that. And but the funny thing is it's like I've been telling everybody like I don't know what we're going to learn. I don't know. So I'm excited to see like what we have in store for this first night. I appreciate you agreeing to collaborate. I know that's something that we talked about the last time that you were here. And so here we are in 2023 collaborations.
Yes, I'm super excited.
Me too, me too. Do you want to give us any updates or anything before we get going?
I don't remember if I had released any products the last time I had spoken with you. But I have
Hmm.
3 products out now. So, the first one is the Marriage Playdate. It is a date night experience designed to help you go deeper in your sexual intimacy with your spouse. It's a list of over 500 sexual activities divided into 2 sections, mild and spicy. And the way that it works is you print 2 copies, one for you, one for your spouse. You go through, you give everything a rating on a scale from, I'm not really interested in this, to, I think this is delightful and we should do it all the time. Let's go do it right now. And the beauty
Mm.
of the Marriage Playdate is everything is fully defined. So you're never going to wind up on some scary corner of Google trying to figure out if you're actually interested in an activity or not, because all the definitions are laid out there for you. And once you've gone through, given everything a rating, you come back together with your spouse, you compare notes, you see where you line up, and now you've got a whole new library of activities to explore together.
Nice, nice. I know you were telling us a little bit about that the last time you visited us. So that is really nice. Sounds great. I know that both of us have some interesting things that we have shared with our friends at Romantic Blessings. So shout
Yeah.
out to Romantic Blessings. I have some things that I've chosen, some little things that, I was like, oh, try this, try that. And I know that you have a little section like that too.
I do. I do. That was actually my idea was
Oh.
I messaged them and I was like, guys, like, I'm trying to figure out how I can do more with them because I have my Amazon storefront where I recommend things that either I've personally, enjoyed or my best friends have personally enjoyed. And so all my recommendations were on Amazon. And I'm like, I feel like Romantic Blessings needs to do with this for all of their partners to have like personalized recommendations for all of their partners on their website. So I messaged them and they were like, that's a fantastic idea. And they got it set up. And the thing that I love about Romantic Blessings is if you guys are interested in a toy and it's not currently in the Romantic Blessings catalog, like you can let them know and say, hey, is this a toy that you're able to access to add to your website? And 9 times out of 10, they can add it to their catalog. So I
Nice.
love being able to direct my money to a Christian owned sex toy website.
I love that too. Y'all know that I have my link that I share, but the best place to go for that is actressmiraclesims.com. There's a nice little romantic blessings tab dedicated right to them. I just wanted to make sure to give them a shout out as well. If I'm not mistaken, some of your products are on there as well, right?
Yes, all 3 of my self-published products are out there along with my coaching sessions. So if you wanted to book a private coaching session with me, you can get to that through the Romantic Blessings website.
Ooh. Well, y'all, I will not be long the time because, like I said, I am just a student on this here program. So I'm gonna turn it over to the teacher because class is in session, y'all. But it was
Awesome.
so sexy.
Well, so speaking of products, one of the other ones that I um released, it goes along with what I thought we could talk about today. So what I released is called the 31 Days of Intimacy. So when I say intimacy in marriage, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
I mean, well, I know we always probably think about sexual, of course, right? But
Yes.
I also just think about like that time as well, right? And just kind of the bonding experience. Um,
So, what if I told you that there's actually 12 different types of intimacy in marriage and sex is only one of them?
ooh. See, I
So,
need to take my notes. I didn't know it was 12. 12, you
there's 12
say?
different types of intimacy. So, the 31 days of
Mm.
intimacy that I released, if you guys enjoy this session, you should go get the 12 types of intimacy or the 31 days of intimacy because it covers all 12 types of intimacy and walks you through how to experience each one day by day over the course of a month. So that's available. But let's talk about what the 12 types of intimacy are. And because my brain never remembers, let me get my notes. Um, so we've got sexual, obviously. I mean, that's kind of why we're here, is we're talking about sex in marriage. And that's kind of the most obvious form of intimacy. But a lot of times people confuse intimacy with sex. So they think if I'm having sex, I'm being intimate. But then we run into like when people have affairs and they say, well, I had an affair, but it didn't mean anything. I really love you. If sex is not, you can't have it both ways. So either sex is intimate or it's not. But there's 11 other forms of intimacy. So we've also got emotional intimacy, which is, being vulnerable with your partner, that's being known, that's sharing your feelings. Again, that one is, I feel like a lot of people are going to be very familiar with that one. Intellectual intimacy, which is, like watching a political debate together, reading an article about current events, sharing it with your partner, talking about your thoughts. I'm going to tell you, the elections over the last couple of years really challenged the intellectual intimacy in my marriage because people. And then we start getting into some of the less obvious forms of intimacy. So we're looking at aesthetic intimacy. Aesthetic intimacy is when you create moments of beauty in your marriage. So you go and you see a play, or you go to an art gallery, or if you are not me, you get up and go watch the sunrise. That's not a thing that I ever want to do. Please do not tell me that that's how you want to experience intimacy with me because I don't love you that much. I'm sorry. I don't love anybody that much. I'm not getting up to go watch a sunrise. Take me to a sunset. Thank you. We've also got creative intimacy. So one of the favorite ways that I have ever experienced creative intimacy with my husband is pre-kids. We used to do community theater together. We've acted in shows together. I've done a show where I was starring in the show and he was the lighting director. So he was making sure that I looked good. Um, but you can do other things too. Like you could go to a paint and sip class, or you could create a paint night at home, something like that. So just being creative together. Even sometimes, like redecorating the living room together can be a form of creative intimacy. But usually if you're doing something like redecorating the living room as your, form of creative intimacy, you're probably going to run into the next kind of intimacy, which is conflict intimacy. A lot of people don't realize that intimacy, that conflict can be a form of intimacy. Um, we don't we think of conflict and we think, oh, bad, like that's going to hurt our marriage, that's bad for our marriage, but it's not. We're human. We're going to have conflict. The intimacy comes from learning to navigate conflict in a healthy way. Are you looking to be right, or are you looking to get on the same team with your spouse? And so that rolls into communication intimacy. How well do you communicate? How well do you talk to each other? Do you understand each other? Do you have inside jokes? Things like that. My absolute personal favorite is recreational intimacy. How do you have fun together? My husband and I love to play board games. We have an entire wall of board game storage in our laundry room. Most nights, if he's not too tired from work, we'll sit down and, play a round of a card game, or if we have more time, drag out a board game. But how do you have fun together? So a lot of people get married, they get into the minutia of marriage and kids and mortgages and work, and they forget that they're supposed to have fun with their spouse. So think back to what you did when you were dating. How did you go out and have fun together? How can you, if that's not something that you can recreate in your current life because kids or work or whatever, think about what was fun about it and how can you recreate that in your current life. I see we have someone joined us. Hello there. Then we're also looking at work intimacy. Now this is not, couples that like work together at the same job or own a business together. This is, can you all cook breakfast next to each other without somebody holding the knife in a threatening manner on the other one and screaming, "Get out of my kitchen." That one was a hard one when my husband and I first got married because I was an only child. I didn't know how to play well with others. And so it took a minute for us to learn how to experience real work intimacy. We're also looking at crisis intimacy. How do you function in a crisis? Now, thankfully, crisis intimacy isn't something that you're going to encounter on a daily basis. Hopefully, if you are, I have lots of concerns for you. But like my husband he's a truck driver. He had someone pull out in front of him 2 weeks ago and wrecked the semi because someone pulled out in front of him, and his company said that he was fired because he should have been psychic enough to anticipate that this woman on the side of the road was going to pull off in front of a semi on a busy highway. So navigating that crisis in a peaceful manner and allowing it to draw us closer together rather than drive a wedge. A lot of couples, when the crisis occurs, will start fighting and arguing and blaming, versus allowing that to bring more peace into the home. And so that is another type of intimacy. And then we're looking at commitment intimacy. One of my favorite ways to suggest couples experience commitment intimacy is look back at the pictures from when you guys were dating and engaged. Talk about all the things that you have overcome together, how you've overcome them, what worked, what didn't work, but how has your commitment grown throughout the years? We've got communication intimacy. I think I covered that one. And then finally, spiritual intimacy. Are you serving in a local church body together? Are you talking about Jesus in your everyday lives? Are you reading the Bible together? Are you praying together? All of those things are so important for spiritual intimacy. And as you can see from all of these things, they all build into one another. A lot of times when we're experiencing recreational intimacy in my home, we're also experiencing conflict intimacy. I'm gonna fight. Like, I love you, but I don't care. Like, I don't have to be the one that wins as long as you also don't win. Like, I'm going down. I'm going to take you down with me.
Oh my. Whoa. Well, that was very informative. I know as you were going through that list, I could kind of think of ways that me and my husband have done a little bit of all, or maybe have been through a little bit of all. but not knowing that those were levels of intimacy. So thank you for sharing that. On one hand, I wanted to kind of have something to raise my hand about, but I think I got a good understanding of, everything that you just shared, and everything like that. Yeah, makes okay. So I don't know. Did anybody else know that? Well, first let's say hello to Buruto. I don't know if he's still there, but if anybody has any questions or comments or concerns about the 12 types of intimacy, by all means, leave us some comments below so the Christian expert can, let us know and everything. And so you're saying that you have a game that involves this,
So
or some type of
it's not a game.
resource?
If you look at this list and you think that's a lot of information, I don't know how to process all of that. That's why I wrote the 31 days of intimacy. So think about like the love dare, right? Is a more familiar concept where like you have a thing every day that you do to serve your spouse or however the love dare works. So 31 days of intimacy is designed to help you experience the 12 types of intimacy in very clearly defined ways to help you recognize each of the 12 types and maybe help you navigate increasing each of these intimacies in very accessible ways. So none of the suggestions that I have laid out in the handbook are things like get dressed up and go on a fancy date and drop $500 on dinner, because I don't have $500 to do that. I am, solo parenting most of the time and homeschooling, and nobody's got time to go out on a super expensive dinner date. So it's things like for recreational intimacy, one of the things in that category is break out a board game, play a game together, experience recreational intimacy. So it defines each of the intimacies and also gives you practical ways to experience them. Because when you look at the list, you really realize, well, we do really great in recreational intimacy, but our communication intimacy could probably use some help. And so I give you practical ways to improve each of the types of intimacy. And when you start to improve one type of intimacy, you realize that they all tie together, and you're going to start improving each of the different types of intimacy when you focus on building one or the other. They are all going to start to tie together.
Teacher.
Yes. Miracle. What's your question?
So why did you feel like it was important to break this down? Like, how did you find out about this? And then why did you feel like it was important to create the resource that you created?
I stumbled across some information just doing some general research one day for another topic that I had a follower question about. Because if you guys aren't familiar with me, my primary platform is on TikTok. I have 100,000 followers over there. And so I get a lot of either emails asking, can you do a video on blah, 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 but I want it to be anonymous because I'm scared to ask this and have somebody see my name. But I also get a lot of comments on videos saying, well, blah, blah, blah. What about this? And so I was doing some research to answer a viewer question. I stumbled across the 12 intimacies really broken down into their categories. And I was like, yeah, I've always known this. However, yes, okay, this is great. Because one of the things that really drove this home for me was comparing the 5 love languages to the 12 types of intimacy. I realized the 5 love languages was not scientifically researched. There's no scientific basis for the book. This is all Gary Chapman's ideas that he popped into his head, and he wrote a book about it. And it's all whether I'm sure his intention when writing it was not for misuse and manipulation. However, the Five Love Languages is one of the most weaponized books in modern Christianity. So many spouses take the Five Love Language book and weaponize it against their spouse and say, well, my love language is physical touch. And because you won't have sex with me, I don't feel loved. Okay, well, first of all, Chapman even says in his book that sex is not part of the physical touch love language. Second of all, that's not how it works. Third, no. And so the five love languages is very self-focused. Very, you're not meeting my needs. You're not doing what I want you to do, so I don't feel loved. Versus the 12 types of intimacy focuses on the relationship as a whole. It takes the focus off self and puts the focus onto the relationship and keeping the relationship whole and healthy and thriving. Plus, one of the issues with the five love languages is needs shift and change. And he talks about that a little bit in the book, but he talks about like, you're probably not going to have the same love language 20 years into marriage as you did when you first got married. But my love language needs change day to day. My husband because he's a truck driver, he walked onto a new job, but he hasn't been home this entire week. And so last week, my love language need was more physical touch. This week, because I have been solo parenting for a week, my love language need is more going to be quality time and or acts of service because I'm tired of keeping this dang house clean all by myself. So it can be hard for your spouse to keep up with a love language that literally can change from day to day because that's how humans are. You know, we might have one that is more typical, but I mean, truly looking at that example, if my primary love language is physical touch, but I've been home with 3 sick kids who have been laying on top of me for 3 days, puking all over me, when my husband walks in the door tonight, am I going to want to be physically touched, or am I going to want to lock myself in the bedroom while my husband cleans the kitchen? You know, there's a
Mhm.
disconnect in the theory versus looking at the 12 types of intimacy. You're now putting the focus onto what does the relationship need? What does the relationship need to get through this season of life? So, in the situation of being alone for a week with 6 kids puking, you're going to lean into your communication intimacy. You're going to lean into your crisis intimacy and you're going to lean into your commitment intimacy. You know,
Mm.
you really need to be committed to your spouse when in oh, in the wife's mind, he's off talking to other humans and nobody's puking on him, and that's rude. Versus, I'm sitting here in a pool of puke and goldfish, and I haven't showered in 3 days. So now I'm really leaning into, well, I'm committed. This is it. I'm going to lean into that commitment intimacy. Um, so it's really a shift in perspective.
Mhm.
And you asked me another question, and I totally went off the rails.
It's all good. It was just about like when creating the document and whatnot. Like,
Yes,
so why did you feel like it was important to create this
all that,
particular
all that,
resource?
all that. Oh,
All the things you
okay,
just said.
yeah, all that one. But also, so many Christians think that sex is the ultimate intimate act, and it's not. I want to change that narrative. Intimacy, sex, when I list the 12 types of intimacy, like if I'm ranking them, sex is going to go on the bottom of the list because sex is supposed to be a celebration of intimacy that already exists. Sex does not create intimacy on its own. Sex has to be I am already feeling intimate, so let's have a party. Let's celebrate this intimacy that already exists. Sex does not create intimacy on its own. If it did, people wouldn't be out here having affairs.
Hmm. Mm. Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, obviously, again, you've opened my eyes and mine to, I guess, experiencing intimacy on more levels. It's showing me that I have experienced intimacy on a variety of levels as well. I don't know if anybody else knew about the 12 types, but I mean, that was very cool to learn all of that. I mean, I really don't want to below your time because I know you have so many other things to do as the Christian sexpert. But if you do want to leave us with something tonight, like what would that be as a final thought in regards to everything that you've shared with us and taught us tonight?
If a couple is watching this and saying, "Okay, but I thought I was gonna learn about sex. We're not having enough sex. I wanna have more sex." My challenge is focus on the other 11 types of intimacy. I guarantee you that if you spend 2 weeks focusing on all 11 other types of intimacy in your marriage, you're gonna start having more sex. If you truly, without ulterior motives, focus on building the 11 other types and not in a, well, I'm going to do this, but I ultimate really like, I'm going to use this as putting, you know, recreational intimacy is going to be my quarter in the vending machine so I can get sex out. You know, not that attitude, but really, I'm going to invest in the relationship. I'm going to invest in trying these other 11 types of intimacy, even if I think the Christian sexpert is the stupidest woman on the planet. I'm going to try it. I guarantee you, at the end of 2 weeks, you will be have a spouse more interested in sexual intimacy.
She says she guarantee it, y'all. Well, look, Miss Angie, thank you. Angela, excuse me.
Angie's fine
Look,
too.
I'm too personal with the teacher, y'all. Too personal. I want to say thank you again for visiting us and joining us and collaborating with us on this concept of biblical sex 101. Friends, I hope that you all enjoyed it as well. If you guys have any questions for us or Miss Angela herself, by all means, comment below and we'll try our best to get to them. This series happens to be happening on the 4th Thursdays of every month, right?
Yes.
So
Super exciting. Oh,
awesome,
Miss Star.
awesome. Yes, we are. Oh, I see we have a comment here. So let's see. Oh, life coach Miss Star says, I truly enjoyed this interview. Thank you for tuning in, Miss Star.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. This is a new series, honey. Miss Angela's gonna come and teach us a thing or two. Biblical sex 101.
Indeed.
But if you guys want to get with the Christian sexpert herself, you can go visit her link tree. It's Linktree at the Christian Sexpert. I'm sure it has links to all of her places and her endeavors and those products that she was telling us about. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends a new series is out here. It's going to help these married couples, come together a little bit more often. And I guess that's a wrap, Miss Angela. Thank you so much for visiting us tonight. Until next time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Bye, friends. Thank you all for tuning in. And like I said, comment below and we'll get back to you. Have a good night.